Imola Grand Prix, we're here, and it's exciting. And after a little bit of a break, we're gonna have 3 in a row, which is awesome. We love that. We're excited about it, Tim.
Adam, it's good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you.
Before we get started here, how are you feeling? Because I
Well,
know you
a
guys
little
got to
tired.
be on Steve watch. You got to be on Steve watch, right?
Yeah, well, for anybody that's unfamiliar, the rest of the channel, if you just come in for the Formula One, you maybe don't know this, but Steve, who is our big Leafs guy, is just on the edge, about to die because it's a little bit like being a Ferrari fan. You get somewhat close and then you sabotage yourself. It's an unbelievable. I don't know how the Leafs do it every year, but as of this recording, they are 1 game away tomorrow night from elimination. So we'll see what happens there.
It's been an incredible meltdown. Let's just start with that. Leafs are up 2-0 in this series against the Florida Panthers. For those of you who live on the opposite side of the world and who don't care about hockey, but they like our show, let me paint you a picture. I think Adam said it perfectly, kind of like Ferrari. I am not a big Leafs fan. I do watch them in the playoffs, however. I also simulcast Steve his watch along as well, so I could see Steve sort of crumble and things start to get bad. Yeah. Anyways, Leafs have blown a 2-0 lead, so it's now 3-2 Florida. And Adam, I gotta ask you, is it over?
Man, it sure feels like it is, Tim. But the funny thing is they could go out, win Game 6, and then win Game 7. Then it's not over. We still have to do it's funny because it's like you don't want to eulogize the team before they're dead. It sure feels like they're dead. They played dead last night. They were terrible, awful,
good.
At home, embarrassing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But
good.
You do weirdly have to be open to the idea that it could turn. And as much as every shred of evidence dating back an entire decade would tell you, nothing will turn, nothing will change. This is who they are. You still have to hold back that 1% and go, maybe. And I know Leaf fans are tired of maybe, but that's kind of what it is.
I actually thought this was going to be their year, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought the coaching change was a good coaching change.
Good coaching change. Yeah. Tons and tons of great new additions on defense. Their goaltending's been great. Yeah. Here's the problem, though. When your top players don't score, you don't win. And last night, when your top players give up stupid goals, like drop pizzas down the center of the ice for other teams to pick up, it's not even about them scoring. It's about them being scored against. You can't concede those kinds of goals, and you can't have your top line be in the minus categories while and expect your other guys to be able to pick it up. So that's I don't know. It's brutal. It's brutal. So it's, to be honest with you, this
is great. Nice. This should be the whole show right here.
So nice to be talking about something other than hockey right now. It's so nice. So I want to say this. The first thing that we got to start with, Tim, and we will get to our little track run through that Tim and I recorded with Tim on the sim, but there are so many rumors right now about Christian Horner leaving Red Bull, and not leaving Red Bull, being sacked by Red Bull. And people are saying it was going to happen before this weekend even kicked in, that Red Bull was waiting for their form to improve at the last race. And if that didn't happen, then Christian was gone. And, here we are. It's Thursday afternoon. No confirmations of that. It seems odd in a sport that has development trajectories that are years long, right? Mm-hmm. That it really is, that they would go it better improve next weekend or else. That's why I feel like that rumor seems a bit odd. Is Christian Horner really on the hot seat?
I don't know. That's it. Honestly, nothing has been confirmed. And at this point, they are all rumors. Taking a look at what Christian's done with the team, for the team, as long as he's been there, I don't know. Look from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't look like that would make sense to remove him.
Not at all.
He is a big part of the lifeblood of that team. And I think if you're removing him, who are you replacing someone like that with?
I would have thought it would have been a guy like Wheatley, right?
Well, yeah, but he's gone down to Sauber. Yeah, Sauber did the right thing. They came in and scooped him up. So Adam, it doesn't at this point, all rumors. I honestly haven't heard anything about this in the paddock, especially not when I was in Miami. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why you would want to remove him, only because you're going to either save some money or like, I don't know. I don't know. But why? I mean, why would you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's why it seems so absurd. And that's why I wanted to ask you about it, because, you raised the first interesting question. Okay, so they get rid of Christian Horner because apparently Max Verstappen and Jos Verstappen don't like him. Okay. And maybe they do, or maybe they don't, or maybe they just have a business relationship. I don't need these guys to be friends. Nobody does.
Exactly.
It's about, like, can we have a business relationship and work within those confines? If we can, excellent, great. And the second, I think the major thing that you brought up, Tim, is that if you're getting rid of him, you better have somebody ready to go as a replacement. And you better have somebody good. Because Max Verstappen and Jos Verstappen are not easy people to deal with. They're not. No great driver is. And I think you better have somebody with some heft and some respect. And it's got, like, the only guy I could think of is Otmar parachuted in, but does that make any sense? He's the only guy that I think who is on the outside looking in, unless you go, like, who was the old Renault, the guy that brought Daniel Ricciardo over to Renault, Cyril Abiteboul?
Cyril Abiteboul, yeah.
Yeah, like, is it somebody like that? Does he even have the respect that's needed? There were some people saying they're gonna move the V-Carb
Laurent Mekies
up. Yeah, move him up. I just don't see that. Like, it seems like a very odd rumor to be out there. And I'm sort of, whenever there's these rumors, it's more than just the story itself. It's why is that rumor out there?
Yeah.
Why has that taken hold? Why are people commenting on it? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. That is a really great question. I think, you made some good points there when you're talking about managing, the athletes themselves, like managing, Max Verstappen and, his relationship with his dad, and, the two of them coming in as well as Max's manager at the same time, who can, really sticks up for Max a lot. And I think if you're Christian Horner, like, you do have a lot of management there that you have to do. But when you're dealing with a generational talent, a superstar in the sport, I mean, everybody comes with some sort of baggage, right? Like, it's just something you're going to have to manage. And I think in Christian's behalf, I think he does his best he can with trying to manage that. I know Helmut Marko gets into the mix at the same time, and he gets involved. And then at that point, I have the question of, are there too many cooks in the kitchen at that point? And, that's where I kind of get a little bit like, you could probably, like, maybe take one of these players and move them to a different part of the file of the project or whatever, and put the other one over on, okay, this is what you're managing and this is what you're managing.
Yep.
Just to kind of break some things up a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is the way Red Bull does it. They've had a lot of success with it as well. I mean, how can you argue with that? And so I think for having, Christian to manage all that, I don't know who else who has the sort of, I guess, thick skin, if you would call it, to get in there and really, manage that whole situation and tussle it up when they have to.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, one of the things about Red Bull for forever is that there were so many cooks in the kitchen, we didn't know how it could work. I mean, Mark Webber mentions it in his book. I mean, you had Wheatley, you had Newey, you had Pierre Vacher, you had Helmut Marko, and his rivalry, frenemyship with Christian Horner, and the cutthroat, ruthless way that they approach drivers. It's
Dietrich Mateschitz on top, like, looking after the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. And now there's another rumor out of Red Bull, and you'll have to forgive me. I sometimes am going to stumble on my words because late nights and early mornings, and I wish it was more interesting than I stayed up doing work and then I woke up to do more work. It's not like, hey, I stayed up and partied. But Liam Lawson, there are rumors about him and how he has not really performed all that well at V-Carb so far. I think it's really early to be talking about this, but the rumors persist, Tim. So is it worth discussing Liam Lawson potentially being dropped, or is this just one of those things where it's Red Bull, people assume things. So a Red Bull driver doesn't have a couple of good races and all of a sudden he's on the way out and, oh my God, all these, online blogs are talking about it, where it's probably not true. What do you think about that situation?
I think the team believes in him. I think Red Bull as a whole, as an entity, believes in the talent that Lawson does have. It doesn't make a lot of sense to just all of a sudden replace the guy. Like, I don't know why you would do that. Who are you going to move into that seat? Are they even going to be ready? Whoever it is that you want to put into your junior team. And that doesn't make a ton of sense when you're trying to build your driver pool, which is what Red Bull is trying to do. They are trying to build out their program again. They are trying to look for that talent pipeline where they can pick another diamond out of the rough kind of deal and make them into a champion. And at this moment, still evaluating Liam Lawson and what his ceiling can actually be. The car's gone away from both drivers. Like, it's gone away from Isaac Hadjar. It's gone away from Liam Lawson. It needs major updates to it for them to bring it back and be a competitive midfield team again, because they were at the beginning of the season, but they're not now. Mm-hmm. And that's going to weigh on both drivers, right? When the car starts to pull away from you and you're just searching for balance, you're searching for answers, you're searching for how can I make this thing go faster? Where has our performance gone? It's just that everybody else has upped their game, brought things to their cars, figured out their cars, refined them more, and Racing Bulls has kind of dropped off. So now comes the time of updates, getting the guys comfortable with the cars, searching out the balance windows for each driver, making them comfortable so they can extract performance. So for Liam Lawson, getting rid of him right now doesn't make a lot of sense. He hasn't been in this car that much. He's jumped from one team to another. He's got to learn a whole new set of people, a whole new engineer. It makes zero sense to get rid of him.
Okay, good. I also thought, like, here's a guy that Red Bull has quite literally invested tens of millions of dollars in. So they're going to give him a half season total of races to go here? They're done with him? No way.
It just doesn't make sense. I mean, look, it could happen. It's Red Bull, right? Like, it could very well happen. I have not heard that rumor at all, and so I don't believe that to be true. But, however, it could happen.
It could happen. Yeah. Okay, so you know what? Why don't we get to our little track drive? Tim Harani and myself on Imola, in the car, in the cockpit. And by the way, Tim is driving a Ferrari in this one. It's a fun one.
Well, there's nothing anybody loves more than a disaster. And that's how Tim has described his warm-up laps for this. So we're going to have some fun at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
You may have fun watching, Adam, but I'm not going to have fun.
And just like your favorite Italian friends, this racetrack has a million names.
It does.
Also known as Imola. One of the better tracks on the calendar. And we may not have it for that much longer. I mean, it only really returned because of COVID.
Yep.
And obviously because we're well out of COVID now, praise be. I think there are now cities around the world, countries around the world who are like, yeah, I'd really like that spot. Italy has 2 races. They're obviously never going to get rid of Monza. So this one seems like the one. So we got to sort of enjoy this because next year, Tim, we may not be doing this track.
Yeah, that's a good point, Adam. Like, it might not be on the calendar for next season. We don't know yet, obviously, because we haven't seen the full calendar yet. But, I mean, all signs are pointing towards it being replaced by something else, whether that's Madrid and Barcelona being on the calendar instead of just Imola. I mean, who knows at this point? But, I'll be sad to see it go. Look, I mean, the racing here is okay. It's not spectacular, but from a driver's perspective, this track is just so much fun to drive. Like, so much fun to drive.
Okay.
Like,
not this driver though, apparently.
Well, so I've tested here.
So you've driven this track, which is crazy. That's crazy.
Long time ago. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. However, on the sim here, 8 laps was. It was something.
It was spicy. All right. Now, okay, let's once we get into the rolling start here, tell us a little bit about why this track is so fun from a driver's perspective, and I'd love to know a little bit more about what you were testing on this track. What were you doing?
So we were testing back in I can't remember, 07 maybe.
Yeah.
The reason drivers like this track is because it's fast, it's flowing, it has a good rhythm to it. But again, it's also one of those tracks where, you know, if you make a mistake, like, you're going to pay for it.
Right.
Come on.
Like that.
How is that
That's
an
insane.
invalid?
By the way, why they're so...
How is that possible?
They're so quick with the black and white flags in this. Like, it's like they're quicker than the actual races themselves. It's crazy.
But seriously, though, we didn't even go...
No, I know.
4 wheels off.
I know. It's nuts. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's a little... Oh. That would have been a big shunt out. This thing would have been rolled into about 1 million pieces.
Good thing we've got damage turned off. Now, Tim, so you would have been testing here. What kind of cars? What formulas?
I don't. We were testing road cars here.
Oh, you were testing road cars.
So it was.
So that must have been interesting.
Yeah, it was great, man. Like, full suspension systems on it for this type of stuff. Like, it was, it's fantastic. Man. It's like, this part of the world is really beautiful too. If no one's ever been to Italy, like, it's awesome. I was here for quite a bit of time back in the day, and I must say, like,
tell everybody.
Even though I couldn't speak the language,
did you?
I had like a book.
Did you pick it up?
No.
There was no Google Translate back then either, right?
I had a book for it. Yeah, there wasn't Google Translate back then. We didn't even have a cell phone.
Wow. Okay.
I'm dating myself.
So let's talk a little bit about this because, you know, Tim, you tell everybody where you're from.
Keene.
Keene.
Yeah.
How many people in Keene?
Back in the day, maybe 500.
So you're a kid from a town of 500 people.
About that.
And you're in Italy racing cars.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, okay, and you're just out of high school at this point too, right?
This was probably about 5 years removed from high school.
Okay, so you're still like 23.
Yeah.
Could you ever have imagined?
No.
Like,
I never thought I was gonna get out of Keene, to be honest with you. I thought that was my life.
That story in and of itself is so cool. You know that, right?
Yeah, you know me.
You don't like to talk about it, but I think that's pretty freaking cool. Now, a track like this lends itself to, obviously, high top speeds, but you obviously have to be quick through the corners.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are teams on the grid right now who are, and don't do that. There are teams in the grid right now who can get up to the top speeds fairly quickly, but their braking and their cornering is not that fast.
Yeah.
If you were to say, here's a team that's going to succeed here because, you know, or maybe over another track, right? Like a team, you know, we know McLaren's good. We know Max is good. I won't say Red Bull. We know Mercedes has had a good start. We know Ferrari can be good. You know, what kind of team is going to do well at this particular track?
I think, like a team like McLaren, I think Mercedes could be good here.
Yep.
Because of the fast-flowing combination of corners. It all depends on, I think, also temperatures as well.
Yeah, because Mercedes have been a good cold weather car for like 2 years, right?
And that's the thing with this track. I mean, sometimes it can throw up cold weather, actually. It can. So I think, you know, we could see a jumbled up grid, but qualifying will be extremely important.
Right.
But again, if no teams have really made significant upgrades, like, I think Ferrari's going to have a big upgrade for this weekend, and that's why we've chosen Ferrari for this weekend, but they should have a big upgrade for this weekend. I'll be curious to see how it plays out for them, because if they can get their tire deg under control, I don't know, this could be a good track for them. It could be a good qualifying track. It might be a good race for them too. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, but yeah, I think out of the top four, you know, McLaren's obviously going to be the favorite.
Yeah.
Anywhere we go.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so good with tire degradation, like, it's ridiculous. But
now, a lot of people don't know this, but Imola is Racing Bull's home track.
It is. Well, it used to be, right? Because now they've moved in with Red Bull.
Oh, they have.
Essentially, they've moved close to Red Bull racing.
Right. You can't move right in because then Zach Brown would have a fit. But I'm wondering how many Ferrari fans versus like AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso, now Racing Bulls fans would show up? Like, would you see a higher concentration of fans of that team, or is it's Ferrari fans?
I still think you see Ferrari.
Yeah, that's all you see, right? Yeah, it's Italy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's godly there.
It's Italy's team.
Now, when you are a Ferrari driver getting onto this track, even though it's not your home race, because we all know Monza is, you must feel the pressure a little bit.
Have to.
Right? How do you think a guy like Lewis Hamilton, who obviously he's handled the British pressure very well, right? Done always very, very well at Silverstone, right? Won last year.
Yep.
How do you think he handles the new stress of the Italian fans and how loud and boisterous and fun and how excited they get if you win and how disappointed they get if you lose?
It's a lot. I think Lewis would be able to handle it. I mean, Charles been able to handle it. Lewis can handle it for sure. It's a lot though, right? I mean, their reporters are really good too.
Like the Italian racing reporters?
Yeah. They're really good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, they're fantastic. But aside from that, I think, Lewis would be able to handle this. No problem.
Okay.
Pressure from Tifosi and everything. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it also helps too if you don't speak or read Italian. Any Tifosi Instagram posts that make you look poor, you have no idea, right? You just have no idea. Okay, and so for the drivers, obviously.
Oh, come on!
I was about to say how much fun this track is.
Like for real, like
in real life. Why is it fun?
Because you get to drive a race car.
Yeah, but you get to drive a race car in Miami and stuff too, and that's not as fun, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's not bad. Like, I've known some bad tracks.
Yeah?
Trust me. But I love this track again for the challenges that it proposes. I think just the big part about making mistakes is, for me, probably the reason why I like it the most. Because, any little mistake and you're going into the wall. It's like a traditional track, right?
Right.
We don't really have this, I don't want to say, we don't have a ton of them on the calendar anymore.
Right.
Right? Like, do we have a load of traditional racetracks on the calendar? No, we don't.
No, we don't. We don't. A lot of city tracks.
Yeah.
A lot of parade-like tracks where it's impossible to pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is going to be a hard track to pass on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where are the passing zones? Like where are the best places? Obviously, corners are always something that people look out for, but.
I would say probably. Let me just.
Just downshift, get through. No, that's fine. A lot of elevation changes here.
I'm trying to think, like, the best places probably down to turn 1.
Okay. I remember I used to have Formula One racing for N64, and this was a track that was on it, and I would, this was a controller thrower, for sure. For sure. And I remember in the N64 version of it, you had to do a speed test, a cornering test, and a brake test. And that would determine what teams that you could make it for. And obviously, I was like 9 years old, so I was really good at the speed test, not very good at the braking or the cornering. And so it would always be like, you can race for Benetton and only Benetton.
Like, this is how good you are.
Yeah, in one of their waiting, you have an offer from Benetton. It's like, oh, great, that's cool. Everybody wants to be Ferrari because of Michael Schumacher. Benetton, there you go.
You're like Minardi.
Yeah,
there you go.
BAR. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
right?
BAR.
Tyrell.
Oh.
Tyrell, I think, was on that. Lotus
Yeah.
was on that. But the Lotus would have been like a mid-pack team, well out of reach.
Was Churl on that?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah. Hilarious.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Oh, we didn't get. How come they didn't
They missed
flag
it.
us
They missed
there?
it. They missed it.
We're on a good lap.
Don't
too.
question it. Just go.
I am definitely.
Ah! What, really?
How is that
Really?
possible? I literally went 4 wheels off.
Oh my God.
That one I put like 2 wheels off. This
All right,
is
are we
brutal.
doing one more?
Let me see how this one finishes.
Yeah. Otherwise, Tim's gonna get up and throw his
I'm
controller.
gonna throw this whole sim out the window. It's all
The
good.
the Tim Sim is not cooperating today.
It's not. I can't believe how many black and white flags we've gotten.
Oh my God.
It's ruthless. Okay, so we went faster, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
All right, let's try that.
I'm saying we as if I'm driving. All right, I am going to not ask you questions.
A lot of people, Adam, want to see you on this thing, eh?
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
I get messages.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. You know
They're
what?
like, why isn't Adam driving?
Well, because I'm not a race car driver.
All right, well, let's see Adam drive.
You know, the whole point is to see somebody good at it. You know what I'll do? I'll jump in the sim after you for Monaco.
Monaco.
Okay. Because if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do the hard one, the one that really sucks. And I hate Monaco on video games. I love watching it.
I honestly was. No. I want to see how it's like on this thing. I bet you it's going to be a crash fest. You turn the damage on.
Pain in the butt. Yeah. Oh, it's a pain. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. When I used to do career mode in Formula One, I would literally I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go into Monaco. And then in the qualifying, I'd crash. So, start 20th. And then I get through the S curve and then get down to the ocean, and then I crash again right where Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly crashed last year.
Crash into the ocean.
Yeah, basically, yeah, like the original Monaco F1 movie from the 50s.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Are we there? Hey!
I don't know if that's
big finish, Tim.
I don't know if that's a good lap.
That's a good lap. It's a good personal best. Beautiful. All right, let's get back to the show.
So, Tim, one of the things that is happening sort of behind the scenes, it's less interesting to talk about than drivers being dropped and team principals being fired and who's racing who and who's sniping at who in the papers.
I don't like you.
Yeah, I don't like you either. Making passive aggressive remarks to the media. But there is an enormous election happening later this year, and Mohammed bin Sulayman has really pissed a lot of people off. Let's just call it what it is. And the drivers specifically, because, Mohammed is the head of the FIA, he's president. They are the governing body of this and other race circuits. And one of the things that he randomly, for some reason, decided we're going to put this in is they wanted to enforce and make the fines for swearing extremely large. And we saw Carlos Sainz get fined earlier this year. George Russell, who kind of leads the drivers consortium, really fought back against this. Yeah. And Mohammed put out an Instagram post, which was, this is a couple weeks ago. It was super vague. And it was, we are going to look at this appendix B, I believe it is. And we're like, what the hell does that mean? If you're the average fan, you have no idea what he's talking about. Then the other day, he puts out another Instagram post, another vague Instagram post, and they said that they were reducing fines in half and things like that. This is an election year, Tim, because that is an elected position. There are rumors, and good ones, that one of the guys who's been fined, I mentioned Carlos Sainz, his dad might run against Mohammed bin Sulayman. Mm-hmm. And that could be trouble because Carlos Sainz Sr. is a pretty popular guy. Mm-hmm. Seems to be pretty well liked. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the FIA's capitulation on the swearing has to do with him trying to win this election?
That's a good question. I don't believe it is. Well, first let's start with the Appendix B that Mohammed bin Sulayman had gone into great details with the FIA to help, I guess, strengthen the FIA's international sort of sporting code. Mm-hmm. So there is now new guidance for stewards, recognizing the difference between, comments made in a controlled environment, a non-controlled environment, and a controlled environment. Mm-hmm. So swearing, and I take that as swearing on the radio, swearing in the FIA press conference. So the new guidance will reduce the maximum penalties for drivers by 50%. So no matter the discipline. Right. So the main changes to Appendix B, I can go through a little bit of this because I got sent some documentation on it by the FIA yesterday when I was out for a long run yesterday morning, early morning. The base maximum penalty has been reduced generally from €10,000 to €5,000. So it's a reduction of 50%. However, the FIA World Championship, where multipliers were involved, the reductions will be even more significant. So the stewards will have the option to fully suspend a penalty for certain types of of a breach, provided it is the first offense by the driver or the team. So all of this needed to be approved by an e-vote by the World Motorsport Council to amend Appendix B. So this is kind of like where we're at in this driver swearing, not swearing. And I think a big part of it, Adam, comes from the actual drivers having detailed conversations with the FIA and letting them know their feelings on things. Now, when we talk about the presidency, so Mohammed bin Sulayem's presidency is coming to an end. However, he can lobby to get another 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's 4 years. So he can lobby to do that. So it's kind of like becoming like the president of America, right? Like you have to go through your lobbying, and then you have to get your votes, and the most votes you get, you would get to become the president of the FIA. So Carlos Sainz Sr., so that's Carlos's father, people in the paddock were talking to him about doing it, about running for the FIA presidency. And that has gotten him thinking about it. So, but he hasn't put together, like, he hasn't gone out and like put together a chair yet. So it's still unclear if he's going to run for the presidency or if he's not. He does have all the experience. I will say that he's covered karting because he was with Carlos. So doing several years of karting. He's done the single seaters with Carlos, his son. He's obviously done rallying, very successful there, obviously. But he's also done the mobility portion of the FIA, and that's a big portion of what the FIA does, like mobility in terms of cars, driving, on the streets, that kind of stuff. And so he's done, he does understand how that works. So he knows the different layers and the different levels of motorsports and what the FIA does and can do. So, but at the moment, he's thinking about the whole thing and understanding how the whole process works for running for a presidency for the FIA. So it's going to take him a few weeks, I think, to come to an understanding on, I guess, what he would really need to do. I think he would stick to the facts. He would stay out of the limelight if he were to get the presidency. I think he would do a lot of his work behind the scenes. Because I think he understands, like, you know, the importance of his position, his job, what he would need to do. But then his son races in Formula One. So then you got to think about, okay, well, where's the conflict of interest here?
Yeah, and Carlos doesn't think there is any, by the way.
Exactly.
As you would think.
100%, just getting that. So I heard from Carlos today. He did talk a lot about this. He did... He did say that, you know, their relationship, I'm paraphrasing obviously with all this, their relationship would change. So he said, you know, they wouldn't want a conflict of interest between the two of them. I think for Carlos, he's got too much respect for racing in motorsports and the community. And I think for Carlos Sr., he wouldn't want to damage his son's racing career because he knows how important that is and how hard he's had to work to get there. You know, Carlos is a pretty honest guy. You know, I've been dealing with him for many years. I think he's always put it to me straight. So when he says, you know, it wouldn't be a conflict of interest and their relationship would have to change, you know, I really do believe him, Adam, because
yeah, of course,
the words he's using are quite strong in terms of how their relationship would change. And so, yeah, I mean, it's it would be interesting to see what happens, because I remember, I think it was before, I want to say it was before Saudi Arabia. I'd heard that there was going to be a big name that was thinking about running for the presidency of the FIA. And I was like trying to search it out, like who is it? Like, if it's such a big name, I would have heard it by now. And I was like beating the bushes, man, to try and like get anything out of anyone, but nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
Nobody really did know anything until all of a sudden in Miami, this thing came out. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, that's a big name.
Yeah. Yes, that's huge. It's huge.
And so if he's interested, it would make things interesting, like as to how this would all go down. But he would have to get votes from other organizations. He'd have to go and lobby for all these things, and I think that's something he probably still needs to learn and figure out. So, like I said, trying to get the right team around him to make a serious push of it, I guess we would say.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's an interesting one. Now, a little bit more on Formula One fathers that I thought you would find really, really interesting. Anthony Hamilton has been offered he's going to receive an official FIA Young Driver Award.
That's good.
And it'll be Mohammed Ben Soleim, excuse me. Basically saying that according to the Times, Hamilton is said to be to have impressed FIA the president with his work governing body aims to smoothen the pathway for young drivers from grassroots levels to hit the pros. And basically what that means is that, like, we're talking about guys like him who didn't have a whole lot of money, right? Especially when they started out. So he is he's a man who's got a very strong opinion on things. He's also a guy that, was seen embracing Isaac Hadjar after, he crashed out before the Australian Grand Prix even got going. It kind of seems like Anthony Hamilton would be perfect for a role like this.
Yeah, I think so, Adam. I mean, this is, it's not like he doesn't have experience working with younger drivers, because he has done that before in the past. I mean, obviously with Lewis, yes, but he has done it with other drivers as well who have come through the motorsports ladder system. And I think that was Molly Hudson who put that report out. She's fantastic. You should go over and give her stuff a read and a follow, because she's a very, very good journalist, and someone who I really respect a lot. She does great work. But I would see this for Anthony Hamilton as this is a very good position for him to be in, that he can actually help nurture and bring along young talent. I think he's a very good voice in that space to really help younger drivers sort of come up, and giving them a lot of his experiences and what him and Lewis had to go through and how they had to get to where they are. So, like, I think he could provide like a ton of knowledge for younger drivers. It is something I really like to see. This is something that's I really like this signing. I think this is great.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we'll see if it makes real change, because that is going to be an impediment to the sport forever. It's the cost of it. We got to find ways to at least try to bring that down a little bit. Now, it will be Franco Colapinto's first race at Alpine. And, Tim, we kind of felt, we were sort of told that maybe it's potentially a rotation. They're going to wanted to see how Doohan did. They want to see how Colapinto does, and kind of take it from there. But there have been a lot of changes at that team. And from your understanding, they've crystallized now what the management structure will be yet again.
Yet again, yes. So before, Adam, you and I came on to record this afternoon, I received a note from Alpine, and it was a clarification following some recent stories on the team and their management structure. And to clarify things, Dave Greenwood, who is their racing director, as he's been assigned as the team representative for administrative purposes and all the relevant stakeholders, whereas Flavio Briatore, he is fully in charge of the team, including the duties that were previously held by Oliver Oakes. Now, when we put out the emergency pod last week, I made mention of all of this, but there has been some stories that have come out that I guess haven't really aligned with that. And this was just Alpine sort of smoothing everything out and sort of really going into a little more detail as to who's actually doing what and confirming all of that. But Adam, I think the biggest thing here is Thursday media day. A lot of the drivers very upset that, and let their feelings be known, really, how they felt about Jack Doohan's treatment at the team. And and felt that it was very harsh.
It was
for both drivers, not just Jack, but also Franco as well, because I think they both have been put in, both have been put into a very difficult position.
Yes.
For Jack, for Jack, Adam, 6 races, I should say, not enough. That's not enough to have an understanding of what you've got. If Jack put together some of the weekends where he did have some pretty impressive pace, I mean, for the most part, 2 to 3 tenths off of Pierre. But if he's able to put the entire weekend together, he's coming away with like decent weekends. If he's able to do that, that takes time to piece together the entire weekend. When you have that amount of pressure on your shoulders where you don't really know if you're going to see the next race or not, it's insurmountable. Like I know what that's like, because we faced that in my racing career, where sometimes I didn't even know if I was going to make the next race because of our financial situation. So it's that put pressure on me to make sure I put out a good performance. Some drivers don't work well with that, and that doesn't mean they're bad drivers. It just doesn't. And I think for Jack, he needed a bit more time, but there was a very talented racing driver in there. And I think that, or I hope at least, he gets another shot, if not at Alpine, then somewhere else, because I think he deserves it.
Right.
As for Franco, Adam, he's in a tough spot, man.
Man, is he ever? Holy smokes. Like talk about pressure, eh?
Like the next 3 races, dude. Like Imola, you go off there, you're in the wall. Make a mistake. Monaco.
It's all walls. The whole damn thing's walls.
It's over.
Yeah.
Spain. Okay, I would say Spain is probably where Franco's going to be able to learn the most out of the car. And even then, he even said himself, like, look, 5 races isn't enough to learn this car, to learn its nuances, to understand where the balance is on everything with this thing. He's like, that's going to take a lot more races. And he's right. It will. It's like I said with Jack. He needs more than 6 races. Franco is going to need more than 5 races. You're throwing him into tracks that, yes, he knows, but if something happens, we're going to end in tears. It's going to shatter the confidence, and it's not going to be good. You're going to go to Canada after Spain. Again, challenging track for someone who's never been to it. Can be a little daunting, especially the final turn. For some drivers on a track that doesn't get used all year round. It gets used once a year and can be pretty slick, and you can pay the price. Doesn't know that track's never driven on it, never raced on it, right? So, I mean, sim can only do so much. Simulator can only do so much. He needs a seat time. And I agree with him when he says, like, look, 5 races is not enough. Like, he needs more than 5 races to maximize the car and understand it. So both drivers in a very difficult position. And then, Adam, if we peel this open a little bit more and we look at the team and the crew that really busts their ass to go to these races, to work really hard on these cars, the crews in the garage, the PR crews, the marketing crew, everyone who's always boots on the ground, who's always going to these races. I mean, seeing that driver change can change the confidence of the team. And then the engineers who spend so much time with Jack have now got to get to know Franco. And then that's a whole other kind of relationship. And so a lot of pressure on them as well. And so you're really not, I guess, helping the internals of the team when you kind of make these big switches like this. It's extremely hard. And for a team like Alpine, Adam, that just works so hard, man, like they're in a difficult spot this season.
Now, McLaren have been investigated for their brakes and their tires and their wings and everything. Red Bull are all over them. First, it's water in the tires, and then it's the flexi wing, which is going away after the Spanish Grand Prix. And now it's the brakes. Tim, what do we know from the investigation that the FIA conducted? It was thorough.
Yes.
What did we find out?
So I was sent a note on that today. Like, I knew they had done it in Miami, but I didn't know to what extent they had gone through the car and they had gone through the braking system of the McLaren, and they went through it pretty detailed, Adam. They went through every single corner of that car to get a better understanding of what are they doing with their brakes. And so, I mean, we all saw the picture of Zach Brown on the communication stand on, I think it was Friday in Miami, and he had he had the big water jug and it said tire water on it. I was dying laughing because like I knew what that was from. So now I want to see what he's going to have on his water bottle for this weekend, if he has anything at all. But for Oscar Piastri's car, that was the car that was that had the brakes checked, and essentially they're kind of looking for cooling fluids that's going through the brake assembly, but then also to see if the design of it is also legal. And the whole thing is legal. Like the FIA went through it all and they deemed it they deemed it, the entire braking system, legal. And so essentially what we're talking about is you have the caliper, you have the rotor, and then you have the cake tin that's on top of it. So if you remove the cake tin, essentially everything that's underneath there is very complex in terms of how they're trying to keep everything cool, which keeps the rim of the tire itself cool, which allows McLaren to have such an advantage in the races when it comes to tire degradation and the tires overheating. And so I think this weekend, Adam, we're going to see some other teams maybe show up to Imola with some upgraded components. I think some of those teams are going to have upgraded brake drums to do something similar to what McLaren is doing, because I think it was Japan, Red Bull was actually out measuring the thermal imaging of the actual rear tires on the McLaren. So they actually had these thermal images that they were showing to the FIA and everything. But hey, this is what these teams do to make sure they're uncovering everything that every other team is doing. And look, if you can do it, you should do it. I would do it. So I appreciate what Red Bull does. I like the fact that they push McLaren back.
Gotta keep them honest, right?
Yeah, and I like the fact that Zach Brown claps back. And you know what I mean? Like, this is the sport. You know, it's tough on the track. It's also tough in the paddock as well.
Got it. Well, Tim, going to be an interesting weekend. So who do you think are the three most competitive teams going into this weekend? Let's just say for qualifying, because you could change your answer in our mid-weekend podcast in between qualifying and the race.
I think McLaren, obviously, Adam's going to have an advantage, but I don't think it's going to be as big as Miami, only because of the temperature. I think like the track temp for Imola is going to be way lower. I think that what that's going to do is it's going to take a team like a Mercedes. It's going to make them a lot more competitive. So I could see them fitting into like P2, I should say the second quickest team. And then I think Red Bull is going to be right behind them. And given on what maybe Ferrari might be able to do with a couple of their upgrades, they're not really bringing a whole heap of upgrades until they get to Spain. But if they do have rear brake cooling in some form or fashion to help with tire degradation, I can see Ferrari being pretty competitive here as well. This is the type of a
Lewis
track
said that he said, today the move to Ferrari was harder than I even expected.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if he can get his tires under him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for Lewis, it's just so much of a learning game, right? And we've talked about it before on here, but like, holy heck, Adam, he's got a lot to go through there. Like, I mean, just trying to understand the car, its nuances, what it likes. I think if he's able to maybe come back to center on setup and really dive into maybe what Charles Leclerc is doing and taking a deeper look at what he's doing with the car and settling on something that's similar to what Charles is doing, I think Lewis can have some pretty good success too. Because their driving styles are similar. They're not the same, but they are similar. So I would say that if he's able to take a look a little bit deeper into what Charles is doing with setup, if I was team principal, I would encourage him to go down that road. Maybe he already has.
Yeah. Tim, Ferrari. We love Ferrari.
It's kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs. So
100%. 100%. Okay, well, listen, I'm really excited. Don't forget, Tim does a mid-weekend show right after qualifying to kind of break down how qualifying goes, and he will update his thoughts on who will do better on Sunday, as that happens. So, Tim, I just want to say best of luck this weekend, pal.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.